We have the Monstrance Clock. We have Death Clock.
Wait a minute! It's Death Clock! It's Death Clock!
And now we have Hellclock, rounding out a trilogy of dark clocks. Look, this is just what came to mind when I saw the name for the first time, okay? Hellclock is a roguelike based on the War of Canudos? I hope I'm saying that right. Which was less of a war, but more of a massacre that took place in the late 1800s in eastern Brazil. Heavy stuff to set a roguelike around, but definitely unique. Hellclock takes place just after the war and the devastation it wrought on the area. You play as Peugeot, once again I hope I'm saying that right, a local clockmaker as he delves through the depths under the church in Canudos in search of his lost mentor. Hellclock bills itself as a Diablo-inspired roguelike, but if Diablo had guns, does Diablo have guns? I'm a Path of Exile 2 boyo, which like Hellclock has an iconic bell spell. The bell alongside the clock all play into the themes of time, which suits a roguelike where going back to the beginning is very common. The combat, as mentioned, revolves around guns, but also spells. Your revolver can fire single bullets, shotgun blasts, or a steady stream of bullets. The spells range from rotating blades to the aforementioned bell spell, which is OP as hell, at least in the demo. With the bell buffed and gaining an item which spawned Catholic ghosts, you can tell they're Catholic ghosts because they're far more literal, also it says so in the item description. I was soon plowing through the ghouls and beasties under the church. The combat is solid, a little loose at times with a lack of accuracy which can get frustrating, but often I ended up far too mesmerized by the graphics to care much. They're really dark, they're really gritty, they suit the tone of this game which isn't afraid to play it all very straight-faced without winking to the player at all. I love these Darkest Dungeon style artworks, relying on heavy black shadows to create a really foreboding atmosphere. Hellclock also has a really comprehensive upgrade system, from items purchased from a shop including weapon and armor upgrades, to a Path of Exile 2-esque upgrade tree providing more stat adjustments, to a reliquary with items with more unique effects like buffing particular spells or adding new effects to a spell. And finally, there's a selection of abilities and spells which can also be swapped out as well as upgraded. The game gives you lots of different spells and attacks, but I found specializing in 2 attacks as well as the dash was the way to go for me. Spreading yourself too thin means you're well-rounded but far less effective. If the goal is to make it to the end with time to spare, having a couple of multi-purpose spells is better than having one for every occasion. The eponymous Hellclock is always ticking. You only have a set amount of time to clear the game, with time added on for beating each of the bosses. This is a straightforward way to keep the player progressing and keep a sense of pressure on the player, and is similar to some of the heat options in something like Hades, with running out of time ending a run, but thankfully the clock does pause during boss fights and certain encounters, so is overall a lot more forgiving. This is just the demo, so not too much to get in depth with, but enough to say that what's here is shaping up really well. To be honest, in terms of size, it's a relatively beefy demo covering 14 stages of the game and gave me plenty to get busy with for a fair few hours. The only areas I would have critiques around are around theming and information. In theming, I think calling mana is a missed opportunity. Embrace the light and dark Christianity aesthetic and call it something like zeal. That would be far more fitting. Save the mana for the mages. Another thing I noticed is that while I can upgrade things like crit chance and crit damage, I couldn't tell when a crit was hit, so I just had to trust the game that it was happening more often. That's fine, but an indicator of critical damage would be much appreciated. I don't like loads of numbers flashing up on screen, and the game doesn't do that, and I appreciate that, but maybe just a sound effect or an indication that something was a critical hit would be nice to know. These are just the little things I found a bit off, but other than that, it's a super solid demo. I was drawn to Hellclock as I love dark fantasy, especially dark fantasy that deals with occult, or religious themes. I love the band Ghost, I love the Sisters of Battle in 40k, and I really enjoyed these elements in Hellclock. Interesting world building, good narrative, solid and fun combat, and I look forward to seeing how Hellclock shapes up as it comes out the oven in a few months' time, into early access, I assume. But what is your favorite dark fantasy roguelike? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, seriously, let me know, because I do enjoy these. Bit of a quick hitter today. If you want more roguelike content, hit the video or playlist on screen. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll catch you next time. Bye.